that a athletic director comes in and understand what it takes to run a good football program, what it takes to go out and find a leader who can lead a program.
So,
You know,
so coach, let me point this out to you, and I have to give Bishop Campbell the reason for explaining it. The reason why I know this because he explained to me this today. A 80s job is so much more than just handling what happens on the field. There are issues. There's compliance. There's business. There's running the business operation as far as game day operations. Also fundraising, right? That's a pretty huge job. And does being a coach give you the vast experience needed to be a fully functioning AD that can handle compliance, the entrepreneurial aspect of running essentially a business by running the athletic department, being also a compliance officer or in charge of compliance, right? And also being holding all coaches accountable for the academic performance of the students that are student athletes. Does a coach come in with all of those things, part of their experience as a football coach, basketball coach, soccer coach?
yeah, you go ahead,
Whoever
Campbell.
wants to take that.
That's you, coach. That's you.
Yeah, I mean, he has to know what he's going to play as coaches, what he's not going to play as coaches. He should know everything that goes on with starting any game, whether it's bowling to baseball to football, making sure things happen, making sure eligibility is on time. I mean, if you got football, you should be doing eligibility coming in May. Eligibility should be done by time summer school start, where the kids know what they got to take, and that's probably in every sport. AD need to know about ordering equipment and when to order the equipment. AD got to know about the academic part, but a smart AD would put people around him, and when I say people around him, coaches around him, to make sure he tell them his philosophy. I believe in academics. So guys, make sure your guys doing what you're supposed to do. The thing is sometimes is the job is so big that when at some schools you don't have enough ADs and it's just falling on one AD. You know what I mean? Now these days you got to be able to go out and hire a media team or with students on campus. One of the main things that an athletic director is supposed to do is raise money. Get out there in there and raise money with him and the president and him in the development department. If you can't raise money, if you can't raise your salary as an athletic director, something's wrong with that picture. You always got to create new and different avenues for your program, whether it's bowling, whether it's swimming, whatever. But you also got to know, even now, and I don't know if I've read I did read an article about now with all this collective and these scholarships and all that, it's going to hurt Title IX a little bit, and the way they spreading the money out. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that involves an athletic director. The old saying is, instead of taking 15 minutes or a day to hire a coach, instead of taking a week, you ain't got to worry about seeing your coach at 1-6 or 1-7 in the middle of the year. He always would have a winning season and move forward. After 3 years, I think you ought to give each coach at least 3 years to show some progress. And maybe now they're doing these 2-year contracts. I think maybe they need to do 3 with 2 as an option. You know what I mean? So to give a guy a chance, I just don't see a guy turning a program around in 2 years. And remember, we were talking about this, guys, early about all this pressure they was putting on Coach Graves. And we said that one because he won walking in the games last year, the favorites, like, man, we beat these because we supposed to. Every game was a nail biter. And we knew then, being at Southern, that, man, like you said earlier, Coach Campbell, it was a lot of bad coaching. And when you look at the coaches, Rocky, all of them was in their first and second year. You know what I mean? It was a potluck. You know what I mean? It was who gonna win this week. It was a potluck.
Hey, Coach, I asked you a question that kind of got you sideways with some people on the Southern coaching staff. When I asked you, Coach, is Southern a good team, or are they just the best of the worst? And you candidly answered the question. I have to say they're just the best of the worst. And that hurt.
Talking about Terrence Graves personally as he was a bad coach. I never said Terrence Graves was a bad coach. I said where we were as a team.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Rocky. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. And I think that, we were simply saying based on the performance of the teams in the West, right?
Right.
There was no real championship level competitor in the West, and Terrence Graves was able to come in his first year and win the West, really going away. In some really nail-biting games, no one was dominated or no win was convincingly. And to be frank with you guys, he got away a lot of half the schedule by the skin of his teeth. You know what I mean? I joked a number of times about it. He had a rabbit's foot, or a monkey foot, or something, because in very sticky situations, it always came up in Southern's favor. So,
and ain't it funny that Jermaine Jackson, who I told you guys he was going to win this conference way in August, that he comes in and win the conference?
Coach, we couldn't take you serious, Coach. That's your protege. That's your protege. Coach, you bought him a suit. You gave him his – you understand what I'm saying, Coach? That's like your son, Coach. That's just like when you tell somebody, my son is going to do something. That's how I saw you as. Now, again, you're right, Coach. You are right. Everything you saying is coming to fruition. He didn't go to recess as a child, and so he don't play. And so everything is coming to fruition. But, Coach, I think your fondness of Coach Jack, is part of the reason why you're so confident in what he can do. I honestly, if I'm wrong about that, I'll take that.
Yeah. No, Coach, I understand. I mean, it hurts my cheeks because me being a part of his success. It's all him though. Let me get one thing straight. All I was a vessel for him to ride, to see what to do and how to do it, and he has taken it from there. I want to make sure him and his staff is doing a great and fabulous job. It has nothing to do with Johnnie Cole. But like I said about 3 weeks, once they beat Grambling, I said that was the team would threaten to beat them. Of course they got a couple more teams, but the thing of it is that how he runs his program, number one, and me and you got a chance to see, Rocky, how AD Golf and him, the relationship that they have. I can't say enough about the relationship that him and AD Golf has. If he's somewhere speaking, AD Golf there. If AD Golf speaking, he got him there. They on the same page, and I would really, really, really want to shoot a shout out to AD Golf at Prairie View. They gonna win, and they working on a indoor facility as we speak.
Let me ask you this, Cam. We know AD Golf and Tremaine Jackson are in lockstep. The only other relationship that we know of that's kind of like that is TC Taylor and Ashley Robinson. Are there other relationships in the swag that that are similar to that, and how much is that part of the success of those programs?
Well, I think Eddie Robinson, his AD are in lockstep, obviously. I think that Paul Bryant and Sam Shade are building something that I think they're on the same page of what they want to accomplish. When you kind of look at that, so when you start saying these things, but see, again, you kind of look at the projection of these programs. You can see Alabama A&M moving in the right direction. Alabama State, hey, this is probably one of their best teams they've had since Eddie Robinson's been there. So when you kind of look at those, so those what you look. But Rock, I wanted to point out something about how much has changed in the AD's job. Because as Coach Cole said, you come, you hire a coach, you tell the kids to go to class and all that. But I don't think people really realize in 1990 is when they first started collecting graduation data. So there was no penalty for kids not graduate because at the PWIs, black students wouldn't even graduate. They were graduating less than 35%. Then 2003, APR came in. 2005, the graduate success rate came in. And now in 2011, they raised the APR. So these are things that the 80s back in the day didn't even have to deal with. They didn't have to deal with none of this. These are things that you have to know. The University of Georgia, even right now, doesn't even graduate 50% of their football players, black football players. They are last in the conference. So again, when you're saying, hey, go hire a coach, you can't hire a coach when these things, and mind you, these are financial penalties when you don't hit APR and graduation rates. These are penalties that you don't get practice time. These are penalties where you can't play in a bowl game, a playoff game. So these things can hit you in the bottom line. So you just can't say, let me now get a guy that knows athletics. You have got to address those things that I just named that weren't even here 40 years ago. Hell, some of them wasn't even here 20 years ago. But things have changed. So that's the reason why I wanted to point that out first. Now, and I think I answered your question about being in lockstep and things like that. So that's what I see. But I think it's so important that when we go out here, because, listen, guys, I'm going to say this again. The difference between the coach's corner and a lot of other people, fire this guy, do this, do that, hire this guy, whatever. Bro, there's business that you got to know before you open your mouth saying this stuff. Coach is a coach. I know ADs very well, recruited players. Rockets played football. So when you sit back and say these things, you got to understand something. Some things can't happen or some things have to happen a certain way because of the rules now. I can't go get a guy. I Coach Cole, now I'm just going to use you as a guinea pig point. Coach Cole can't be an AD right now. He doesn't know compliance or APR. He would have to already taken that class. You have to take a class with NCAA and get certified. Coach Cole doesn't have that. I know this for a fact. So these are things.
Well, you got to take the. You got to take the. It's always a test every year. Coaches and AD, they got to take a test.
But I'm saying you didn't have to take that. That's what I'm saying. So now these things have now come that have now moved people to where now it's number crunching, and that's the sad thing. That hurts us. And then we also know that these numbers that they put on us are unfair because we don't have the resources to sometimes fix some of this. So I just want to put that out there.
All I can say, guys, on my success of all, I went to Lane College, 900 students, armpit, locker room looked like shit, football field halfway, one corner mud, coach's office, dirt, didn't have a space for you just got to have that vision. You got to walk in with that vision. When we walk in these places at Tennessee State, we didn't have balls, whistles, nothing. The locker room, we ended up moving the locker room underneath, paint lockers. We created a locker underneath the damn stadium. You know, when I went to Texas Southern, the field house was tore down. They were talking about ready to tear it down. I was like, no, if y'all can't give me a build me a football locker room and stuff like right now today, let's renovate that. I was able to sit down, use my civil engineering degree and design the locker room that they still in. Let's get that straight. Still in. So what am I saying? I ain't saying that to brag on myself, but I'm saying that when you come into these schools, HBCU schools, is somewhere anywhere, and you see and need and know what you need, it ain't no time for no excuse, because you take the job knowing what you walking into. If they don't have these things, or during your interview process you haven't asked them and you know what you're going into, stop making excuses. HBCU schools, some of them are in these positions is because they don't know no better. They don't know that you should have a media team now. They don't know now that you should, clean up the locker room and clean up the field. They don't know. Most of these presidents ain't never played football before. And now you got 90% of the athletic directors that now has never played football before. So they don't know what it takes to turn it around. You know what I'm saying? So I just believe in, man, give me am I your guy? Get out the way. I got it. I got it. I'm going to go get what I need to get. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that we realize that sometime when we hire people. You know what I mean? I don't think so.
Coach,
I've seen it over and over and over again.
Coach, let me ask, and either one of y'all can answer this question, because like I say, this is a learning experience for me. I hope a lot of you guys appreciate this education that I'm getting as much as I appreciate the education I'm getting. But when you talk about essentially the process of doing more with less, right? Earning a job where you realize on the outset you don't have all the tools that's required to be successful. You have to go in and create those tools. Do you think our best and brightest coaches elect to take a different path, as a different career path, and does that affect the quality of the coaches that ultimately end up being coaching in HBCUs?
Say that again now?
Okay, what I'm saying is, when you understand, Coach, you took jobs fully understanding that it was going to be an uphill battle, right? And you didn't just take those jobs, those head coaching jobs, understanding that. You took those position coaches job, understanding that. You took those coordinator jobs, understanding that, right?
Right.
So, do you think it affects the quality of coach that we end up with in HBCUs, considering any opportunity that's given, not any, but some opportunities that are given are those coaches will be coaching against insurmountable odds for some. They won't just be coaches. They'll be carpenters like you and LC were. You'll be designers like you were at TSU. You'll be responsible for compliance, and even though you're the head coach, and when it doesn't go right, you'll be blamed, right? Are our best and brightest black coaches choosing an easier path, right, that's available in PWI football because being an HBCU coach demands so much?
I would say you're correct. I mean, every guy wants to be and go to the Division I level. Of course, it's the money. The money is way more even as an assistant coach. We only have to talk about head coaches. As an assistant coach, you got assistant coaches making more than head coaches in the HBCU. That's why, to me, it's important for these ADs to make sure when they're choosing a coach that these coaches understand where their program is. You can't take a guy out of New York Skyrise a hotel, apartment or a house, and then put him down in a 1-bedroom down in the hood and say, okay, man, show me your talents. Even if you don't water a flower, it's going to die. And he got flower talents. I can't say enough about a guy who took over at Texas Southern. Let me give you his background. He coached at Notre Dame. He went to school there. He coached at UNLV. He coached at LSU. He won a MAC championship. All right? He was out of coaching for 5 years. We take him and bring him down to this certain school because he won 15 games in 4 years. And you can't tell me that this guy wasn't no flower, that he didn't know no football. He knew football, but he didn't know all the other stuff that goes with it. Because when you bringing these guys down from these high rises and these big time neighborhoods, who they go hire? They don't know nobody. Or they don't know nobody that will take the low pay as an assistant coach. So I'm sitting up there with all the knowledge. I'm the smartest in the room, but I don't know that I got to tell the maintenance people, man, come on, man, clean my house up. I don't know I got to buy somebody in the compliance a bottle of whiskey for my eligibility sheet to be. These are all the things that you learn coming up through HBCUs. You know, you take a nickel and turn it to $1. That's why Campbell, we're so successful when we get out in the world. We go in looking, where I can fit in at. What I need to, you mean tell me they take the trash out? Oh man, that's all right. Let me do something else. And that's why we get these guys that come down to these schools. And not only do they lose, they expose all these bad issues about us. And
hey, let me say something to Adrian Crooks. I don't mean to step in here, Coach, but I'm gonna let Adrian Crooks know that this is a football show. Any band talk should be directed at some other show. I know you guys only have one win, but we will not tolerate any band talk in our comments. Right? When you're talking about the sonic boom and the jukebox and all that kind of stuff, this is a football-centric show. I'm sure there's a lot of band programming on YouTube, and we will no longer allow any band talk in the chat. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why it's important, man, to get a guy that's been through, he already know what he's getting himself into. And we got a lot of great coaches. We've in the last 10 years, Campbell, we put a lot of championship coaches on the shelf when they should be coaching. I keep saying that. When they should be coaching somewhere. You know what I mean? We got a lot of great young coaches who have came through this league that's sitting at high school jobs. And we continue to get guys from the outside, and they bring outside guys. And I got to say it that way, man. And then they talk about the school, and we ain't got this and we ain't got that. Well, you should have known that when you showed up. So that's HBCU to me, man. I really think it's also a great opportunity. And I guess the problem is we got 40 football schools, about 40 football schools. So that means we got 40 head jobs. And anytime that we go outside the HBCU realm, that number goes down, down, down. Of course, the killing side about the coordinator spot is some of our coordinators don't look like us. You know what I'm saying? So they come in and take those spots. They take the highest paid job on the salary, and they take those spots. So that makes it push it down some more. So I just think that ADs should take time and really look at who really can get these programs going in the right direction. Because at one time, Bishop, you appreciate that. It was great coaches down at every school, and it was some competition every week. It was Jackson State and Alabama State every week, that we played.
Yeah. I just think that sometimes when I applaud you guys, HBC coaches, for being able to do more with less. And as a proving or a training ground, I'm sure it provides a certain level of competence or ingenuity that other coaches at other levels may not have. right? But I think like I say, me and Mr. Campbell had a conversation earlier today, and he said, no matter how great you were in Houston Markham's time and Archie Cooley's time and Eddie Robinson's time, you weren't going to get an opportunity on the other side. And your only option was to coach in HBCUs. Fortunately, times have changed. And we have bright, brilliant, very competent coaches and young men who are pursuing the coaching as a profession. And my question is, as HBCUs, why do we make the job exponentially more harder than other jobs when we absolutely need our young men, our men in the positions at our institutions to be successful? We should make it as accommodating as possible, and I think that requires a level of investment. But what I see a lot of times, Campbell, and I'm just being perfectly honest, I see more often that there is neglect rather than investment. Am I looking at the wrong things?
Well, I think Co-Pilot is making some points about what SWAC pay versus what other conferences pay. And I think that's a legitimate argument. I'm not going to disrespect that argument. But what I will tell you, and I think I told, who was this I was telling this to? Coach Cole, that was Rocky. White people have the benefit to take jobs that pay less because they end up making more. You'll see these guys, and we've seen these coaches. You look at some of these great coaches and where they started at. Very, very low-level colleges. But they know because they got the hookup, they got the friend, daddy was there, and they know somebody, and they move up, they move up, they move up. So we get caught in the catch-22 to Co-Pilot's point, are we overpaying people and they're not producing results? Or then do we have to pay people a little bit more because there's so many other options? Because if you, like Willie Simmons is a perfect example of you couldn't keep him. FAMU people were ready to pay Willie Simmons $500,000.
It'll be $1 million next week.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said it'll be $1 million next week. But go ahead.
Hey, we ain't got that. But the point of it is, if you're a Willie Simmons, what are you supposed to do? Jerry Mack, like they just said. What is Jerry Mack supposed to do? He's coaching at Kennesaw. He's an HBCU guy.
Yeah, he came from Rice on to Kennesaw.
So when you start looking at that, no, it wouldn't have been foolish because Willie would have made that money. So that's the thing about it. When you go to Celebration Bowls, you make money. That's why people pay coaches. You go to Celebration Bowl and host that championship game, that's worth almost $2 million. So actually, that's called investment.
Yeah.
And then he said, really increase the family enrollment. See, stop talking about stuff you don't know. Florida State and Florida caps our enrollment. We could have 20,000 people. See, I keep telling y'all, stay in your lane, Stephen A. Stay in your lane. So back to the point, Coach, with this is that you got guys that you got to find, and I'm going to keep saying this, you got to find the diamonds in the rough. But the next young black guy, okay, Rocky, I told you this.
But let me say this, though. In HBCU, we pay more money than the Lone Star Conference. We pay more money than Division I FCS, 1AA FCS. We find, we pay good.
Right. But what I'm saying is you got some of those coaches that'll take a job because they're already thinking ahead. I think we have to pay more to keep the guys we got. Now, does it pay off? I'm not going to say that because I think some of the people are overpaid. Because, again, overpayment, all the time people say you're overpaid when you lose. Have you ever noticed that?
Well, here's my concern. I think a couple years ago, when Dooley was fired, we got I think an unauthorized listing of the coaches pool and what they were making. we had men who were in their 50s and 60s making 40, 50, some even $30,000 a year to be coaches at the college level under a head coach that was making, I think, $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
I think we have to do more. I mean, I don't know about you, Campbell, but how can you put together a competent staff when you're making 400 and then your assistants are making somewhat under $100,000?
Who's making 400? There's nobody SWAC making that. Who's making 400?
Wasn't Dooley making that?
No, I think
Dooley was making. He got a payout of 400 because of the years. Dooley wasn't making up $400,000.
No, Dooley wasn't. Nobody was making full.
No, nobody's making that. Mike Vick might be making that.
I think you might be talking about my man at Tennessee State.
Oh, Dooley was making 310. Crook, is that what he was making? 310. So he was making 310, and every other coach was making under $100,000 on his staff.
Yeah.
Is that a appropriate distribution of the coaching?
Well,
coaching
let me ask you
pool?
a question. You have a job, right?
But currently I'm not getting paid for it. But we'll talk about that.
Well, okay. Well, that's your business.
Yeah. Because of our current situation of our government, I have to work and not get paid. My bad.
So should Dooley have taken 200,000 and spread it out?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say it right about, man.
When I took the job over at Texas Southern, I told the people what I needed in my. I needed a secretary. I needed a operations person. I want a new strength. I want my own strength coach, and of course my salary for my coaches. And so we went through that, and I took a cut to make sure I had what I needed around me, because I figured if we could win, I could get that back. But then I also took a cut of the 1AA games, the big games that we played, the money games that we played, to make up for what I was able to give away. So I think that was a big disparity when I heard about Southern and what Dooley was making according to whatever his assistant. I think his coordinator was making $60,000, something like that. And he making $320. Yeah, that's a great disparity.
He got all the money.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, man. I wanted to invite Zoe and Zach if they had anything that they wanted to add to this conversation, because I know Zach knows a lot about what's going on in coaching in FCS. Zoe knows everything that's going on with Jackson State, and if he don't know it, he'll make it up. And so, I'm just joking. Shout out to my man Zoe. But but I think this is I'm just surprised that with all this coaching turnover, ADs don't seem to be catching heat. Now, Roman Banks is catching heat. Let me say that. I know you Southern people have been giving Roman Banks the business for 3-4 years now. And he's still probably one of the highest paid ADs in HBCU. You know what I mean?
Don't he coach basketball too?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought he was a basketball coach at one time, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
But okay, we got us a call here. So caller with the last 4, 6100. You're live on HBCU Coach's Corner. I guess you don't want to talk to us, huh? Can you hear us? Hold on, let me see. Hold on, man. Let me
I will have to get you that old school push button phone.
Man, sometimes.
And just connect people on the 3-way, bro. Just click you over, man. Call Rocky on the phone. He gonna click you over on the three-way old school.
We got to take this one. We got to take this one. I got to get this one right. This is big time. We getting big time action here. Hold on. I get him right. Y'all go ahead and keep talking while I deal with this.
Let me ask you a question. What Rocky saying is we don't have to start any names because we're gonna have a phone call. You've coached down there at Southern. You won championships at Southern. You know the people down there. What type of coach would be successful at Southern University?
Are you speaking to me?
You're the only coach on here.
Well, let's go back.
Hey, Rich, can you hear me?
All right, when Coach Washington was there, I think he came from a high school there. Then they switched over to Marino Castle, coming from Alcorn. He was an athletic director there, and then he ended up taking over. And he won. He did a pretty good job. Then they went and got Pete Richardson.
Can you hear now, Flood?
Pete Richardson had been at Winston-Salem up underneath Bill Hayes, and then they ended up giving him a job. He ended up winning a championship there. So when he went to Southern, he already knew. The people really didn't want Pete there because the year before, Southern beat Pete them pretty bad. So then Pete comes. Of course, Pete knows a lot of people being an older coach. And I'm not saying that young or old. I'm not playing that card tonight. But he was able to bring in a good staff. And Pete won in 17 years. Pete had one losing season. So they need a guy that can come in, and they need some energy down there. They need some energy. I think they need a championship coach. Somebody has got a championship pedigree there that can come in there. They need somebody to be able to go out and sell the program. Understand the importance of the people around the program. You got to go out and meet these people, get these people back into the fold of Southern Jaguar football. There's Southern Prep Southern High School right down the street with Ashbury. They got great athletes. You know what I mean? You got great schools there in the Louisiana area. You got to be good at recruiting in Louisiana.
We hear your background, Flood. Can you mute your background?
You ready?
Yeah, I got him on it.
Yeah.
We hear your background, Flood. Can you mute your background?
I sure can.
All
Is
right.
that better?
Yeah. Can you hear us, Flood?
I can't hear you though, Rock.
You can't. Hold on. You can't hear me?
Well, he messing me up. I'm giving my pitch here.
I can't hear you, Rock. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't. Hey, I'm gonna call you on a regular phone call. Let me see, can I get you through that way? I'm gonna call your number. All right.
This is right here, and Black hit this on it. I think this is one of the most interesting comments. And I just, so Southern people, when I saw Fred McNair step to the podium, what was you all thought process, or what did you feel when you saw it? I mean, I know he's the intern coach, probably, but so is Fred McNair your next Southern coach? That that's people are excited about that.
Hey, what'd you say, Rock?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Hello?
Oh my goodness. Can you hear me now, Flood?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me.
We can hear him.
But I want him to be able to hear you.
Yeah, I can. When you.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I couldn't hear what you were saying. I couldn't hear the show.
All right. Can you hear me now?
But I can hear you now on this call.
What about now? All right. I'm gonna send you a link, Flood.
Now I can't hear you again.
We can hear him clear as day right there, though, Rocky. Whatever you're doing.
We can hear him, Rocky. Just turn this.
All right. All right. I got you on speaker, Flood. Go ahead. I know you wanted to add something to the conversation, and I know you're an insider on the Southern side. This is Reggie Flood from the Jaguar Journal, Big Time Sports Show.
Inside the game.
Inside the game. So
tune in 6 o'clock. 6 to 7 on Mondays.
Absolutely. What do you have for us, Rich?
Hello, Coach. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? It's good to be here. Man, I was sitting there watching the show. You guys have an incredible show. I got to remind Coach, he left somebody out. He left out Gerald Campbell, man. It was
right.
Gerald Campbell was in between Coach Rich and Marino Chasm. It was Marino Chasm twice. It was Otis Washington, Marino Chasm, Gerald Campbell, and then Marino Chasm again, and then Gerald Campbell. I mean, and then Coach Rich, then Pete Richardson.
Charge it to my head.
Rich brought in the Rainbow Coalition, including yourself, with Cliff Yoshida and Mark Orlando and Fred Keiss and yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, man, we've gone through this, and Coach McNair's taken over as the interim, but I think for in terms of the long-term aspects of not just Southern, but HBCU coaching, and like Coach Cole said, the best minds in football used to be at HBCUs. And Rock, what you're saying about the expansion and our best minds going to other schools, I think some of that what plays a part in that now is it used to be our coaches came from HBCUs. Our high school coaches came from HBCUs. So it wasn't any kind of stigma. They were sending kids and sending young men to places where they had been, where there was a legacy. Now you have so many coaches. When we desegregated, it was like this rush, especially in the Deep South, to rush to the Confederate schools. That's what I call SEC schools, excuse me. But I call them Confederate schools because they all have some attachment to the Confederacy. But they all rush to the Confederate schools. And what we've seen as a result of that is now, even though we have African Americans coaching high school football across the country, a lot of them are PWI graduates. So we're seeing them send kids to PWIs. Even our HBCU coaches are, rather than become head coaches at HBCUs, they're willing to become lifetime position coaches at PWIs, in particular the mid-majors and major PWIs, because of the pay. Let's be real. And they're limited in their positions. There's a behind-the-scenes comment that I would always hear coaches say. Hear some coaches say, you know who the black coaches are in the SEC because they either coach defensive backs, wide receivers, running backs, or D-line.
Never quarterbacks, OCs, or linebackers, huh?
Now linebackers or barely or defensive coordinator, you're not gonna see. Very seldom do you see those. And even when it is an African American guy who gets in those positions, it's usually a certain kind of African American guy. If you get my drift.
Yeah.
So those positions and the guys that we have to look at, it's hard to compete to go and say to a guy who is the defensive back coach or the wide receiver coach or the running backs coach who doesn't have the experience as a head coach. It's just the fact that he's the lead recruiter and he's coaching at a Power 5 school, but he's making $700,000 a year as a running back coach. As an HBCU, how do you go to that guy? And first of all, why are you even going to that guy? Because he's literally in a situation where he has everything at his disposal to be successful.
That was my point. Yes.
Yeah, whether he's African American or not, he literally has everything at his disposal to be successful as the running backs coach and lead recruiter. So that guy is not necessarily a good guy to come down, not just to HBCUs, to any FCS school, because the same problems that they have at Southern are some of the same problems they have at Nichols, some of the same problems they have at McNeese. So that guy is not a guy who's used to not having resources. So he's not going to be prosperous in most cases wherever he goes, and especially if he doesn't have the experience necessary, and if he isn't willing to humble himself and come coach and gain that experience, that guy's not going to leave. How he's going to tell that pretty wife that he got, that he know usually probably wouldn't get if he didn't make that money at a SEC school, how's he going to tell her, baby?
I said it.
We're going to take a $400,000 pay cut because I want to be a head coach, and I'm going to take the job at Southern.
Hey, let me ask you this.
Can I piggyback off that for a minute?
Hey, yeah.
That was one of the things that during my career that when I was coming out.
Hold on. I was just putting where you can hear coach.
Can you hear me?
No, go ahead, coach. I'm going to make it where you can hear you.
The black coaches on those staffs were just assistant coaches. That ain't my personality. I wanted to come out and be a head coach. I had an opportunity to stay up on the Division I level. I coached at the University of Cincinnati. Made more money as assistant coach than my brother's making as a head coach. But I wanted to be a head football coach. And the way I wanted to be it was at an HBCU school. Of course, now they're actually paying, as he said so gracefully, $600,000 to a position guy. So even that would have made me say, oh, no, hell no, let me stay. I also was meeting people like John Harbaugh and these guys that's on the pro level. So, yeah, I mean, what he's saying is so true. But also, we talk Campbell and Rocky that we only got 40 positions and they're very few. So it's almost like when you become a head coach at one of those 40 HBCU schools and they get rid of you, your damn career is over. Because they're not really taking you up there. And then the guys down on in the 40 don't want to hire head coaches because they say, I don't want to hire my replacement. So we got to be careful about how we get rid of championship coaches in our conferences. So that's what I want to piggyback off of what he was saying.
Yeah, he said he agreed, Coach. I mean, Rich.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what Coach is saying, and I have to tell Coach, they're not built like him. It's not a lot of guys out there now who are built the way he's built. Because I interact with, I covered the SEC. I've covered the NFL. There are not a lot of, I know some guys who are played in the SWAC, who coach and who are position coaches at some of these Power 5 schools, and they wouldn't dare. They would be insulted for you even asking them to come down and coach at a SWAC school, to coach at their alma maters. And they really don't understand, well, why can't Southern or why can't Grambling or why can't these schools have the same thing as the University of Florida? And I'm like, that's what... is that some kind of dream world? Do they take your brain when you move to the SEC? I get it that they live in such a world that they're so used to people catering to them, because I'm telling you, it's a different world when you live in these, when you work in these societies. Literally, everything is catered to. Literally, imagine you don't have to do anything as a coach but coach football, recruit student athletes to come play football for you. That's all you have to do. And they say, oh, we're mentor of men and we care. Well, you can be a mentor when you don't have anything else to do. You don't necessarily even have to be a father figure to those kids. All you have to do is be a football guy.
I'll even say this, Reg, is that because I have friends that are close to Power 5 programs, they have other coaches that are not allowed to leave campus to perform their duties that provide that mentorship and that together.
Yes.
That, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so much their position coaches that provide that mentorship. It's those other coaches on the staff that aren't official that provide that. I'll just put and they have all different kind of titles at that level.
To give people what they call them player development coaches, what is the label that they give. they really just the caretakers, but they call them player development coaches. But I want to give people an idea. Like when you're coaching at a Power 5 school, when like with Southern looking for a new coach, there's been a lot of people who on social media who are talking about, well, we should go and get this guy. He's a Southern Knight. He's coaching here. He's coaching there. Well, that guy is used to getting whatever. There's literally somebody who brings him an iPad that's loaded with game film, a loaded recruitment video of kids that they want. There's a director of football operations. There's a general manager who gives him a list and a video of these kids and say, hey, these are the kids you're going out to talk to. These are the kids you need to call. Look, here's your food at this time of day. We ordered your new car for you, and it'll be here this week. They are literally catered to in that manner. So if a guy is going to be catered to like that, do you really think he wants to come down? Even it's not just the HBCU thing; it's across the board on the FCS level, and particularly in the Deep South. That most of the smaller schools is going to be a big state school or two big state schools in some case, and it's going to be everybody else. And you're not going to make that kind of money, and you're not going to get catered to unless you are a coach on the come up or a coach that's headed down. And so those guys are going to stay there as long as they can, even though they know they'll never be the head coach at Auburn, they'll never be the head coach at LSU. But if I can make $650,000, $700,000 a year, and I can take care of my family, I'm going to do that for the next 20 years. And I'm going to live good. So I don't fault them for doing that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not faulting them for doing that. But I want our fan base and our people to be more realistic about what college football is and how we operate in this sphere of college football in terms of HBCUs. And another thing that people don't take into account, and particularly in the SWAC, is that most SWAC schools are state-run institutions. And therefore, you are playing at the political whim of the parties and the people who are in control of the state legislature and the state house. So you have to be aware of all of those things. You really do. And so like in Louisiana, we have 3 Division I schools, FBS schools, Louisiana Tech, ULL, and LSU. But we have 14 FCS schools in the state of Louisiana. 14
in the state of Louisiana, in the state with 4.5 million. So can you imagine what the recruiting battle is like for kids in Louisiana? Now, mind you, Southeastern, which is 30 miles from Baton Rouge, Southeastern, been a perennial playoff team in FCS, pay their coach about $100,000 less as coach.
100,000 less?
Put that in your $100,000 less. Wow. Imagine if Southern or Grambling, one of our coaches, $150,000.
Hold on. Let me jump in here. Let
that marinate for a while. Imagine if Southern said, we're looking for a coach and our match is $150,000.
Well, hey,
go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Flood, can you hear me?
He asked, can you hear him, Flood?
I can't hear, right?
All right, I'll put you back. Can you go ahead, Steve?
Hey, Flood, can you hear me?
Yeah, he can hear you.
Okay, I want to tie in something because I heard some things. Okay, so here's what people are saying. I'll just say some younger people. Well, why don't you just hire the guy down there in Southeast? They go to playoffs. We're paying them more money. But explain to people, or in your opinion, because it's our opinion, why wouldn't a guy like him come to Southern? You just said they're paying more money, or a guy that's a 61-year-old white guy to come to Southern. He's making $75,000 less, or a 46-year-old white guy in Mercer who's making less. Why wouldn't those guys, since you guys are paying all this money, Why wouldn't those guys come to Southern?
Because those guys are not coming to work at an HBCU. Number one, they don't view an HBCU as an opportunity to accelerate themselves. Number one. Number two is, let's just be real. This is still America. This is still America. And
now, wait a minute. I want you to run back something that I said. Now, hey, Ron, can you put it back so people can hear him? Because we can hear him real good. I don't know what you get.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard him.
No, but I'm talking about for the
No, go ahead and tell them what this is. You said what this is. What is this for?
Because Floyd, you said something
this is
important.
still America.
Yeah, no. But before that, start over what you're talking about for them moving up and what they're thinking about. Start there. Because that's so important.
Oh, okay. He said start over. Tell them about what they're thinking about when they're moving up.
They're thinking this is a HBCU job is not going to propel them to the next level if they are a younger coach. They don't consider an HBCU job as the ability to propel them to the next level. So they are not considering HBCUs. And as an older coach, let's be real, this is America. No 50 or 60-year-old white guy is going to, even if it's more money, very seldom are they going to come to an HBCU to work over there. People look at Jay Hobson. Let me tell you something, and I'll be real and frank about it. Jay Hobson was a failed coach. That's why Jay Hobson ended up at Alcorn.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. That's right. Let me say something too. Let me add something.
Hold on. I'm gonna shut up because I want to drill this in because I keep hearing this narrative, and we live in reality. See, I don't deal in non-reality, and this so what you're saying is, and we've seen these videos before, that a white man will take 100 and wait. So Southern coaches making $250, right?
Yes.
And a white man will take $150,000 and will not take $100,000 to come work for a black person.
For the most part, yes. Unless he is in desperation's door. like I said about Jay Hobson. Jay Hobson was a failed coach. His brother was a state senator. He turned the Alcorn job down 2 or 3 times. And he was a failed coach who was out of coaching.
That's right.
And he turned the Alcorn job down 3 or 4 times.
That's right.
Alcorn's president, who happens to be a MAGA Republican, black MAGA Republican. He wasn't MAGA then, but he is, along with a lot of, that's another thing. That's a whole nother discussion about our college presidents who happen to be MAGA Republicans, but that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But because FAMU is not alone in that. I don't want to leave my brother standing out there. FAMU is not alone in that. A lot of them have been undercover for a long time. So I don't want to leave my brother alone in that one. That's been going on. But the president went back to him. He was good friends with the governor. His brother was a state senator. The president went back to him and they begged him and they made him promises. They went the weight room. They gave him things that they had never given any other coach at Alcorn.
That's
Jay
right.
Hobson was able to get things at Alcorn that no.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.